So today we'll be discussing the autonomous database advanced monitoring capabilities, and we'll also be looking at some of the features that we have for Exadata. So we'll kind of have a brief overview of the observability and management, what we offer within our services. Then we'll look at an overview of database management, kind of take a high level look at the fleet management capabilities, drilling down from the fleet to a single database, then checking the performance diagnostics for the database, then going into some performance tuning capabilities, some of the features and tools we provide out of the box. And then we'll be looking at some simple database administration tasks. And then we'll follow that with the Exadata infrastructure monitoring, performance diagnostics, and then we'll actually look at a couple of the Ops Insights features as well. So within the cloud, we have the observability, and that basically starts with all of our infrastructure within OCI, as well as multi-cloud. So you have a lot of your base computes, you have your object storage, a lot of the IOs and throughputs there. And on top of that, we're pulling all of these details from metrics, the events, logs, traces, and SQL. So we have a whole lot of data coming in for monitoring use cases. And so we do provide the basic features within the OCI for monitoring all of the stacks and all of your hardware infrastructure, et cetera. But on top of that, we have the observability management platform. So these are our advanced monitoring capabilities where we kind of have niches and unique situations that we kind of integrate together to provide you a holistic view into how the performance of your database as well as all of your deployments are associated with those. So it could be infrastructure, et cetera. And so we're looking at application performance monitoring. So you can look at spans of workloads running on from your application, going through webhooks, hitting the database host server down to the database itself. And through the span, you can see where the slow points are, where the pain points are for retrieving the data you're looking for, and kind of linking that to any anomalies occurring within the system. So with stack monitoring, we're looking kind of at the whole infrastructure resource as a whole, whether it be an out-of-the-box EBS or PeopleSoft deployment. We can provide a full stack view of the health of all of your details and infrastructure running on those. With logging analytics, we take logs from all across the different telemetry sources, from the infrastructure to the hosts, to data guard logs, to database alert log. And we can kind of pinpoint and find any anomalies occurring and find which associated resource could be causing that issue or throwing that error, and really allow you to logically perform that root cause analysis and find the issue very quickly. We have the database management and OS management service. So we'll be looking in that today, kind of up-leveling your monitoring and management of your database. And then Ops Insights is kind of taking all of the telemetry sources together and providing advanced tools and features around capacity planning, looking at warehouse use cases, large fleet analysis, using auto ML, and a lot of other capabilities to kind of really quickly and logically prevent any issues for your environment. So specifically, which we'll be focusing on today, the database management provides that single pane of glass overview for all of the databases in your fleet. So this could be located in OCI and another supported cloud, like AWS or Azure, and it could be on-premise database. So as an external is what we would call that. It provides a kind of a holistic view of all of your databases, regardless of where they are. So you can find your top issues on your database, the health of those, the monitoring status, and kind of figure out where you need to prioritize your management of your databases and make sure that you're not going to hit any issues or bottlenecks in the future. So you can quickly obtain that overall view, looking at CPU, IO, memory, and other critical resources. You can drill down from this fleet level to a single resource page for active management of your database. So you have a really great tool to really find where the issue is, but then address that issue very quickly by drilling down into the individual databases. And so we also provide scalability within our service. So you can have a database group containing multiple databases. So you can perform SQL queries and analysis, DDL, DML changes to the group in the database. So it could be a production database Could be all databases on a server or a lower level environment where you're going to be doing code changes and then moving that into production. You can do this all at scale through our service. So database management really, we combine the backend instrumentation and tools that you already have available within the Oracle database kernel itself. And when we provide a lot of visualization driven interfaces, so you can quickly identify any problems within your database fleet. You can really tackle any issues that you might have, and really empowers not only database administrators, but also cloud engineers, application developers to really monitor the health of their environment, be it code against the database, deployments or host configurations and things like that to see where your resources are and how those are being utilized across your databases. So we are fully managed by Oracle, so there is no overhead in managing the monitoring solution itself. You basically can sign up with a subscription to our service, and you can quickly get onboarded by collecting metrics, utilizing our in-depth tools to really perform that database administration. And we also have full cloud elasticity. So any scaling you do within your database environments based on CPU, you're also going to realize those costs in the monitoring aspect since we charge based on how many CPUs you have allocated to that database resource. And so the main use cases we're providing with the service is that real-time performance monitoring and also the management of databases deployed anywhere, again, multi-cloud or on-premise. So we have a lot of compelling features that we continually develop with very aggressive roadmaps to really meet our customers' needs. So we have the roadmap that's defined by not only what customers want and need, but also trends within the industry. So we really want to keep on top of things. And the nice thing is once we develop a feature here, there is no uptake of any patches or any configurations on your end to realize those new tools and features. They're automatically available to you through our service upgrades that we do internally. So we do have the unified view of monitoring all your databases anywhere. We do provide the Oracle tools such as Ash Analytics, the Performance Hub if you're available or if you're used to utilizing Enterprise Manager for monitoring your databases. We have a lot of those same capabilities that we've brought into this cloud native solution. And you can really get details into ADDM reports, your AWR analysis, and kind of building visualizations on top of all of these traditional tools to really make them more accessible and quickly analyzed from administration or administrators for the database. And finally, we do offer the database administration activities, so user management, table space management, parameter configuration, and some other capabilities are provided within our service as well. So all that said, I know we kind of want to focus more on the autonomous database today, as well as some Exadata infrastructure monitoring. And so we've recently released these advanced autonomous database features. And so this is going to go hand in hand to what we've kind of already provided for the cloud databases for our service and the on-premise databases. So around the main feature sets, we kind of have these tools that we've brought into the autonomous database as well. So as we all know, the autonomous database is a very powerful kind of self-healing, self-operating database. But a lot of the times we bring in application code and new code and new changes and maybe migrating from a non-autonomous database to an autonomous database. And it's very helpful for us to be able to manage some of that code ourselves and be proactive on our end ahead of time to actually utilize some of these tools that we were traditionally familiar with in the non-ADB performance monitoring to the autonomous database. And so the features around database performance administration includes a SQL tuning advisor. We do provide the ability to create SQL tuning sets to implement it into those. You can view a lot of the autonomous self-driving tools and some of the underlying architecture of the autonomous database and how it does the performance tuning. You can actually get views into how that health is. So you can see how your SQL plans are being managed and utilized by the autonomous database. You can view the optimizer statistics for the autonomous to validate that everything is going according to plan within the database. You can view your object level statistics to ensure that you have the best execution plans for your database. And then you can also get in the details of your AWR reports by looking at AWR Explorer and then the SQL Insights integration. So that's kind of one of those top level tools of looking how all of your SQL statements are performing against your database fleet down to the single database resource and kind of finding any pain points there and doing more tactical performance tuning from the most impactful findings for your database environments. So for real-time performance monitoring, we have the Performance Hub. Again, Enterprise Manager, we've had that for quite some time now. It is available within our service. We have a Top Activity Light, which auto refreshes, and we'll kind of get more into these features through the presentation, so I won't cover a lot of these in depth right now. But we do provide SQL monitoring details, the blocking sessions, our AWR, ASH reports, and ADDM reports, and kind of up-leveled some of these as well, which we can see. We have a view of the alert logs, so it's going to be the same capabilities that we have for cloud and external DBs. If you haven't seen that, it's just an end console view of the alert logs with some visualizations around Oracle errors that have occurred, and then not for autonomous, but we do have attention log details for other databases. Storage administration capability. So we do see a little bit of split between the autonomous serverless and the autonomous dedicated. We do have read-only views of your big file table space within the autonomous serverless. But with the autonomous dedicated, we do have full management capabilities. So it's going to be a very similar look and feel for your cloud and external DBs if you're familiar with the service already. If not, I do show this a little bit later on in the presentation. Again, the autonomous optimizer statistics, utilizing the ADB admin user, we're able to see how those collections are going, and then even utilize Stats Advisor if there are any corrections we need to make to these optimizer statistics. Finally, we can view database parameters, so updatable parameters for the autonomous database. And then we can also have integration into the OCI monitoring service. So we can quickly create out of the box suggested alarms for the autonomous database. And then we can view these in context of on the resource page. So you can find out if there's any alarms firing for your autonomous database and drill down for the further analysis onto what's causing those errors. So here we'll kind of look at a fleet overview for all of our databases. And so these can be many flavors of databases. Here we do have an autonomous serverless database with other databases we have deployed. But really the fleet overview gives you an analysis of how your database fleet has been performing over the past 24 hours, past hour, past 7 days. And then we also have a comparison period. So you can actually see if there's any increase in utilization for specific resource parameters and really get an overall health of your database fleet. And so bear with me. Hopefully I do not advance slides too much with this. But here at the top, we can kind of see our time period and then the comparison period. And then below, we can also see that some databases have a very large amount of increase for this resource utilization during this time period. And so we're looking at key metrics like our average active sessions, our CPU utilization, our storage allocation. So you can really find where the issues are and then really drill down from those as well. And so we also have kind of some other logistical views here. So you can look at a tree map view, find out what the most intensive utilizers are of your resources. So here we're looking at our DB time, and then we're looking at specific pluggable databases that we have with our environments. We can consolidate this to view our rack instances if necessary, but you can quickly see how the larger squares equals taking up, consuming more of your database time. So if you do have shared databases that you're looking at on specific infrastructure or Exadata infrastructure, you'd be able to quickly see what the top consumers are based on your resources. And another great thing is, so we have our color change as well. So this indicates any large change within the resource utilization over the comparison period. So it's looking like a lot of these have changed 10 to 50%, indicated by the darker blue colors here. And so with these details, you can go from a large fleet view down to an individual database to kind of perform some of that management and monitoring capabilities that we provide within the service itself. So looking at kind of the landing page, so we're looking at the autonomous database now. You're able to see a lot of the different capabilities that we have just for the autonomous database. So our performance, we've kind of split here where you can get quick links to your performance hub, AWR Explorer. You can quickly go through a launching of your different tuning tools here, such as your SQL Tuning Advisor, SQL Tuning Sets, going through SQL Plan Management, validating the health of your database environment. And we've also recently had links into other services or Ops Insights, which we'll kind of cover this later, but we've integrated this into cross-linkage to make it easier for administrators to kind of get the features and functionalities of our observability management platform into a single console. So you can quickly find the pain point for your database and leverage these other tools that we have within observability management in one location. We do provide, again, the management capabilities, and then finally integration into the OCI services, such as OCI monitoring. We do have credentials within our environment, so you can set preferred credentials to quickly get started and kind of save those based on your user or your resource. So you can kind of share those across users, all dependent upon your IAM policies configured within the cloud. So specifically for performance diagnostics, here we're looking at our top activity lights, but we've brought in what we've had for the Performance Hub, traditionally Enterprise Manager. If you've worked with that before, it's available within our service. So we're providing those deep Ash analytics. So we're looking at very specific granular details into the performance of your database in real time. So we have specific SQL statements that are causing any sort of weights on your database. It could be IO weights, CPU weights, it could be blocking, latches, just a lot of Oracle internal weights as well. But we're all exposing those within this environment. So you can quickly find if you are having any spikes, which could be kind of an increase in activity on your database, which SQL statements are contributing to that, as well as what sessions those are coming from. So you could quickly identify any specific user that might be running a large amount of work, where they're coming from specifically, your program, and then your service, and then your top activity is coming from these SQL statements. And so any large spikes within your database is kind of where those are occurring. And you can even slide this gray area to kind of investigate further if you wanted to in the past to see maybe when a spike started to occur, what is new compared to historical activity on your database to really pinpoint where that root cause analysis is. One of the great things about Top Activity Lite is we initially load the 1 hour period, but then any new snapshots intervals are going to be realized as we kind of add it on this last slice to the activity. And so this kind of has a less impact on the database, less overhead for monitoring the activity in real time. So real-time SQL monitoring, this is a view into your database SQL details. And so you can see basically generate a SQL report if you wanted to for your environment, but you'd be looking at a specific SQL statement here, kind of getting top details on when that was introduced into your environment, what the execution statistics are. And so you can look at your explain plan, how that SQL statement is accessing the database, if it's doing table joins, if it's doing Cartesian joins, nested loops, if it's kind of hitting a table for filtering first compared to later on when it might be doing a join in a different order. So you can kind of get an idea of how this is performing on your database and even see if there's statistics that aren't accurate because it'll show you an estimated rows that it thinks it's going to fetch from the optimizer and then the actual rows that it brings back. And so we do have new visualizations here as well, so you can quickly identify where the most cost is coming from your SQL queries. And so that can help you whenever you need to go and alter how the execution is. So you can provide hints. If you're doing a join and you wanted to do actually a nested loop instead, you can provide those hints. If you maybe want to lead by pulling results from a table that you know from the application has fewer results, which is going to actually translate to fewer fetches by the database. You can kind of get all that details here and then work about how to fix the problem with your SQL query. We also provide these blocking session details. So we show a tree view of which sessions are blocking which sessions. If you have multiple locks, you can see that we provide the specific wait event associated with the lock, the amount of time it's blocking, and then the wait time that it's been waiting. So you could have a session that's spinning, maybe has a row lock on it, maybe it's performing some operation for delete against the table, and then all of these other selects and inserts are waiting upon it. But you can really see where that is coming from. And if you know it's a session that's maybe been abandoned on the database, maybe that hasn't been committed and it's been out there for a very long time, you can quickly select the statement and then terminate the session within the console here itself. So you can kind of get everything processing again and move past the blocking session. So one of the great tools that I've really liked seeing within our service is the AWR Explorer. So traditionally, AWR performance data has been based on specific snapshots over time periods. So you'd go in and you'd have snapshots every hour. You'd generate a new snapshot and then you would check it out. And then you kind of look to see when your performance problem started. What this happens is whenever you start making larger snapshot windows that you're generating reports from, it consolidates all the wait events and then averages out over the time. So you could have a significant impact on your database performance over a short period of time. But if you're generating a large AWR report where that wait event or that finding isn't as impactful, it's actually going to be averaged out, and you won't be able to find that increased wait time for that specific wait event. And so here we're looking at a control file sequential read for over a shorter snapshot of time when it actually was more impactful in the environment. We see that the average wait time was between 3 and 350, I believe this is milliseconds. But then whenever we're doing over a larger period of time and we're averaging out, oh, it's microseconds. Whenever we're averaging out that wait event, it actually appears to be less, so not as much of a contributor to your environment. So this can be difficult whenever you're looking for what the root cause is for an issue over a long period of time. But what we've done is we've developed this AWR Explorer to really visualize that granularity of individual snapshots from the AWR and expose those over longer periods of time. So now you can look at an 8-hour period and then keep the individual snapshots granularity still there. So you can still see the spikes in the wait events for those individual snapshots and how that's contributing to the performance of your entire database over that time period. And so we don't just keep this within our wait events. We also provide it within load profile, within OCI metrics. And so you can kind of get an idea of what are your top contributors to the problem within your database, the root cause analysis. And then you can kind of build around the other metrics to see how that was impacting your users, your application users on the back end. So you can remove charts, you can include charts, and here we're looking at wait events. But you can also look at your load profile to see how your IO is over time, your time model. And we keep the same frame of reference for time periods across tabs, so you can quickly see where those correlations are between the different metrics that we're collecting. And so you're also able to kind of rebuild that performance hub view of your top activity within AWR Explorer for that historical AWR data. So you can kind of get a full picture of, hey, this is how my environment was looking. If you're very familiar with looking at these bar charts within Performance Hub, you can find those outliers and you can find the metrics or the wait events during that time period that were contributing as well. I don't think I have it shown here, but another great thing whenever you're looking at these wait events is you can click on any one of these bars and bring up the wait histogram to show what percentage of weights were elevated during this time period, which one looked normal, and kind of perform that really in-depth performance analysis within these tools. So now looking at some of the performance tuning capabilities that we provide. So here we kind of have all of these capabilities within that single console. So it makes performance tuning very easy. And with the rich tools that we already have within Oracle, we're leveraging those within our service. So we build these visualizations to quickly integrate so you don't have to do this on the back end. You don't have to have all these syntax configurations that you're worried about. We provide it with just very easy to get started tools and fields. So here we're looking at creating a SQL tuning set. As you can see, we have all of our in-depth options if you want to do an incremental cursor cache collection. So you're sampling your buffer cache over a long period of time and kind of collecting all the statements run at every 30-second interval to kind of get a holistic view of how your database is performing during this time. You can do that. You can gather SQL statements from the historic periods and pull those into a single object in the database. And really, this allows for bulk performance tuning and recommendations for your databases. So you can also filter these results based on either a select statement or if it's coming from a specific user session or a specific application. So you could say, hey, I'm going to be running this new code upgrade and I want to check all of these new SQL statements and see their performance and kind of have them as a single object with all the statistics of these SQL queries into the database, which I can do performance tuning on. And you can take this object and you can put it in lower level environments to do this analysis and then bring it back into production during the code upgrade to validate that you know how it's going to perform once it goes live. So basically, once you create the SQL tuning set, you have that packaged SQL, and you can incorporate that into the SQL tuning advisor. So you can basically say, I want to have all of the SQL statements running from my user into the single object, and then I'm going to tune in bulk all of the statements that have been collected during this time. And so then we can have the SQL tuning advisor, which provides optimizations to queries. It basically goes through and it looks at all the different execution plans it can generate for a single SQL statement, and then it selects the best performing one, and you can create SQL plans from those, SQL profiles, and really baseline the performance of your database so you have consistent performance in your application, regardless of any other tools or functions that are going to be hitting the database. You know how these SQL statements are going to perform. So another thing with the SQL plan management, if you do have the plans enabled, you can have those as auto capture, but for the autonomous database, we basically already have it enabled. It's doing all of this in the background, but what we provide here is visualization on how those are performing. So how the autonomous database is doing these collections, which SQL plans it has already built out, the statistics for those plans when they're executed, what the overhead is for managing these. And then you can drill down into the individual plan as well, and you can get details around the execution plan for your SQL statements, the plan, hash plan value that it's utilizing, as well as some of the predicate information with your filters and some of these other details. You can view these all here within the console. And so it's really helpful to get an idea of how performant that your database is and how it's operating behind the scenes. One thing that you can't do here is do the configuration of this for autonomous because it already is configured out of the box for you, so you don't have to worry about that yourself. So the optimizer statistics, you're able to see how the health is of your statistics for your database, see the individual table statistics because your execution of your SQL queries, they're only going to be as good as your statistics are for your database. If they're not up to date, it could be choosing incorrect execution plans based on invalidated statistics. And so here we're looking at all of the optimizer statistics gathering jobs, validating that they're completing successfully, seeing if there's any findings so we can actually make recommendations based on these. If you have invalid statistics, if you have fixed objects, So you're not gathering and updating statistics. We can provide these views into how that's performing and then make those changes on the database itself. So now we'll take a quick look at some of the administration capabilities we have for our databases. So for the autonomous database, we do provide capabilities of viewing the users for your database, along with account status, expiration until password expiration, when that's going to occur. And so basically, it's a read-only view of your database users today. For the storage management, like I had said earlier in the presentation, for serverless, you can view the usage for your autonomous database data file. But for the dedicated, you're able to actually perform some of these administration tasks like adding data files, extending, creating the table spaces like you would another cloud database. Again, with our database groups, you can actually have the job automations at scale. So you can quickly create a query to run against multiple databases. You do have to have shared credentials, but we basically store the output of the query, either for reports or you could do DDL, against your database into object storage for persistent, secure storage in JSON format. So if you need to actually utilize those reports in another way, you can quickly and easily integrate that, or you can just view them as the output here. And those jobs can be scheduled, they can be run ad hoc. So it kind of gives you flexibility in your use for the job system. And then I don't have an image here, but again, integration into the OCI monitoring, you can quickly see if there's any open alarms for your database group, with their critical or warning based on the OCI alerts that you have configured. And then we also have out of the box monitoring alerts. So you can quickly get started by generating monitoring for your autonomous database and then extending that to other databases that you have. And then we also provide out of the box dashboards so you can kind of get a good visualization on how performant your autonomous database is. So here we'll be looking at some of the Exadata infrastructure capabilities. So basically, we provide a holistic view of your Exadata fleet here in real time. And again, we do have kind of a similar look and feel as we did with our Oracle. We have the time period selection and comparison. And then we're looking at our Exadata resource usage across our entire Exadata fleet. So this is kind of a consolidated use where you can see if you're over allocated within your Exadata fleet for CPU, you'd quickly be able to find that here. If you have kind of hitting up on a specific bottleneck for a threshold, you'd be able to find that here as well. If you need to go activate some CPUs or increase some of your storage and some of those things, you quickly will find that. Then below in the table, we should provide these same granular details for the storage servers based on the individual's infrastructure. So you can see your individual cell servers, grid storage servers for your Exadata down here with the CPU utilization, storage allocation, and memory. So you can kind of do a quick view of any infrastructure resources that might be hitting capacity soon, and kind of a quick view here. And then if there's any underutilized, you can kind of optimize the deployment of your databases on the infrastructure to get the most out of your Exadata fleet. So drilling down into the individual Exadata infrastructure, you'd be able to get a great visualization on your storage servers, your cell servers, as well as your grid. You get consolidated views of your metrics for your I/O, and then the performance and top consumers. So you can see the top utilizers of the database, and kind of get those details within one single view of your Exadata infrastructure. So some of those more visualizations have here in a couple of slides, but really you can relate a lot of these metrics into the performance of your databases. If you're overutilizing any storage within a specific server, you can kind of fix those. Any configuration issues, we kind of bring those to light as well. And so going from the Exadata system down to the database system, we do provide these details for your database system. So this would be the non-autonomous databases. You can check your clusters of your nodes, your databases, ASM, and listener details. So you can kind of get a whole view of what the health is for your database system. And we provide these key performance metrics for ASM as well. So you can see if there's any top consumers within your disk groups on the database level, if there's a disk group that's filling up quickly, and some of those details on the storage of your database on the ASM level. And you can also view all of the activity of your databases here, or the status of your databases here, I should say. So you can see which ones are up, which ones might be having any issues, and kind of get that idea of the health of your DB system overall. And so we do also provide this for ASM as well as your listener details. And so here's the performance for your Exadata, again, for your storage, a little bit more granular, but we do provide some of these capabilities within that Exadata infrastructure monitoring once you drill down. But this is actually located in the performance hub for the container databases. So you'd be able to see these tabs are also located within the performance hub. It should show up, and then we have kind of a view of your Exadata health for your storage, kind of a quick visualization so you can see if there's any outliers, any problems. And we really break this out into those very granular Exadata details for your I/O pertaining to your flash disks or hard disks, your I/O requests, how large those are coming through. So you kind of get an idea of where there might be problems on your storage side, and quickly address those issues. So the top consumers, you can see which databases are consuming the most activity for your storage servers within your Exadata. So you can find any databases running hotter than the others. And then you can also probably, well, you can take this information and you can go tuning on these databases to either reduce the I/O, find any queries that are contributing the most to it, and kind of reduce the impact your database is having on your infrastructure. Or you can utilize this to start some of those migration optimizations from one Exadata to another if you're overloaded, kind of separating these heavy hitter databases to get the most out of your Exadata infrastructure. We do provide details for your I/O throughput on your cells, as well as your individual disks. So we can see the flash disks and hard disks to quickly identify any outliers in performance, any anomalies, which might be indicative of a failure of your disk, or maybe a misconfiguration issue on your Exadata storage servers, to really kind of get the most out of your Exadata. We do provide smart I/O, flash cache details, and flash log, so you can be realizing your flash as best as you can. And then finally, we're looking at some of the configuration details again, looking at your disk groups, how they're configured, and then on the ASM level, how much they're consuming. And you can also see redundancy, and then state if they're mounted or connected, et cetera. You can view all of this here within these details. So we've covered a lot of features here, and I think I missed the slide update here because I do have a couple of more. But basically, for the autonomous databases, the manage one as many, your performance diagnostics and tuning are here, as well as your database administration tasks. And so something I haven't called out here are some of the new features that we have. The session search is available now for cloud databases and external. We are hoping to bring that to autonomous databases very shortly as well. And then we have a new feature releasing either this week or early next week for SQL search. So if you're familiar with the Enterprise Manager capabilities of searching for SQLs or sessions based on specific identifiers, we do have those capabilities either in the service or coming to the service, and then also coming to autonomous very soon. So we're looking forward to a lot of these new features that we have. So here's a quick view at the supported deployments. Again, viewing what capabilities we have within the database management service. And again, we do have full capabilities now for the autonomous database, except for the Exadata infrastructure monitoring pieces, the Exadata fleet. And then we also do not currently have metric extension capabilities. So a lot of these are reliant upon agents. We don't have it currently on the roadmap, but we are hoping to if we ever are able to get agents deployed out here on the autonomous infrastructure, we can also provide these capabilities. So currently it's NA. We'll see how this is developed in the future. So now that we've kind of looked at the real-time performance monitoring of your fleets, drilling down into individual databases, we'll take a look now what we kind of provide within Ops Insights. So it's really a great service that takes telemetry from all across OCI, even from Enterprise Manager. And we've quickly integrated some of these capabilities there as well through cloud extensions to really provide holistic details in the performance of the database, the fleet, the hosts, to really up level and be more proactive in managing your environments. So we can really see how the capacity planning and trending are for your database hosts and environments. We provide it on an Exadata level. And then we also have a lot of warehouse capabilities to kind of view your own data, create notebooks, et cetera, on top of these data stores. And so some of the main use cases for Ops Insights would be that capacity planning, really looking at the health of your databases, the utilization, which ones are going to be causing problems or hitting bottlenecks in the future, and how long until that happens. And a great thing is we have 25 months of data stored within the service, so we can really be accurate on the historical view and how that's going to be brought to the future. So we can have seasonality trends if you have higher seasons within your company to really address those capacity issues before they would be impactful for your applications. We also have Exadata Insights, so really providing that holistic view of your Exadata utilization from the past into the forecasting of the future, so you can get that in-depth optimization of your Exadata infrastructure, viewing how your VM health is, viewing your database health, and get the resource utilization for all of those different levels, and then bring those and fix any issues that might be problematic upcoming. ADDM Spotlight is a very tactical view of your ADDM findings and recommendations, and which we'll cover that here in a little bit, as well as the SQL Insights. So this is that large fleet overview of your SQL details, performance, and executions, finding any anomalies, any degradation across your fleet for the SQL performance views. And it can drill down from the fleet level down to the individual database and then down to the SQL statement. So you can really get an idea of if a plan change has occurred, which has caused performance in your SQL statements, and et cetera. So basically looking at the Exadata Insights, again, we're providing a holistic view of your key metric utilization for your Exadata resources. And it might be a little bit more difficult here, but you can quickly see we have key metrics of CPU, memory, and IOPS, and then we kind of have this threshold percentage of utilization. So it could be set at 80%, 85%, and then we're looking at how much of that you're currently utilizing, and then we're forecasting until high utilization. So we're going to cross that threshold of that 80% within the next 45 or plus days, or maybe we only have 7 days until we hit 80% utilization of CPU for our storage servers. So it kind of gives you that idea of how healthy is my Exadata system? When am I going to be hitting these limitations? And another great thing is it doesn't just have to be that infrastructure view. We can also provide grouping on our VMs. So if you have any VMs that are running hotter on your Exadata machine than others, you'd quickly be able to either allocate more resources or move databases from one VM to another, and activate more cores and really get ahead of your problems before they're impactful for your customers. So ADDM Spotlight. So here, this is the tactical view of your ADDM details over a longer period of time. So think about the AWR Explorer, which I discussed earlier, where we're looking at kind of granular individual snapshots and we're extending that over a larger period of time. So you're not losing the granularity of individual reports, but you're exposing it over longer periods of time to find if there's any anomalies, repeating occurrences of specific findings from ADDM. That's going to really allow you to see which findings are the most impactful, and then what is the recommendation for fixing those? So it could be a SQL statement, it could be configuration of your database servers, It could be configuration of a parameter that might improve your performance of your database. But really, we're going to be finding the top issues within your database fleet and then drilling down into what the recommendations are for fixing this. So if you have one SQL statement that's kind of taking up 70% of your DB time on your database, it can find that. It can provide what the best case is to actually improve the performance of this by providing either an index usage, quick integration of the SQL tuning advisor to run that to find where the performance can be improved. And so you can really spend your time on the big impactful problems rather than trying to fix a bunch of small ones to get back some of these resources. You can kind of start at the top and go down to realize more from your resources. SQL Insights, as I had said earlier, this is kind of looking at your historical view and performance for your SQL statements running in your fleet of databases. So the view right here is on a single database. We're looking at what the application code looks like. So if you're doing a lot of select statements, inserts, updates, deletes, etc., you can see what type of workload is going against your database. You can find if there's any plan degradations, if there's any SQL that's just degraded from over time, maybe a table is getting larger as you go on, and then maybe you didn't have an index originally, but you want to create a new one for that. It can kind of highlight where these issues are within your SQL code over a longer period of time. And the thing I really like about this is you can actually see if you have multiple production databases running the same code, not all of them are necessarily going to be having the same execution plans across the databases. You can really find and pinpoint which one might benefit the baseline across your entire fleet the most, and then really implement that to get kind of the most back for your environment as well. And so kind of like what we just discussed with the ADDM, this is more of the SQL level analysis across your entire fleets to get back the most from the tuning operations. And you can see the statistics for the SQLs executed. You can see if there's a plan change, what the old plan was compared to the new one, and kind of get into that performance tuning very easily and accessible with these visualizations.
Derek, just a quick time check. We have about 10 minutes before the hour's up.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Thank you. And so then finally looking at SQL Explorer, this is kind of a warehouse view, the warehouse of all of your SQL performance details. So you can kind of have customized reports, create custom widgets here that you can utilize, kind of looking at whatever you want for SQL activity across your fleet of databases. And so you can look at either buffer gets for your environment, if you want to look at storage access. You can look at Exadata, kind of IO there as well. And you can kind of split this based on time, on databases, really whatever you want to get out of your reporting. You can utilize all of these details and metrics in your own data store to generate this and kind of build this into your own sort of dashboard if you have custom dashboards already. So it's a great way to quickly integrate kind of easily create a lot of these performance investigations for your environments. If you do have niche use cases for metrics that you want to expose on the SQL, you can easily get started here. This is rolled up daily. And again, we store this for a very long amount of time, that 25 months. So you have continued reports so you can see the growth of your environment over a longer period of time. And so here's the support for the Ops Insight services. So we can see the autonomous database located here. We do have full support. Again, the Exadata and the host level are not available, but we do have everything else associated available for autonomous databases. And so this will be probably a couple minute demo, just probably a view of how to get to our services really more than anything, because we did cover a lot of those details within our visualizations and the slides. But looking under the observability management, under the hamburger menu, you'll find all of our services located here. You'll see database management, as well as the ops insights. will be located here right below it. I was looking everywhere else except there. But you can drill down. The diagnostics and management portion of this will be this real-time monitoring view. So here we're kind of pulling up the fleet view of our databases. Again, you can see the inventory. We have a serverless database, we have container databases and pluggable databases, all located in one single location. We can see the monitoring status. So we do have some resources that are unknown. It could be agent issues or something we could drill down. We can see alarms associated with these. We have the time period comparison and analysis. And then going into our database, we have an autonomous database discovered here. We get all of these configuration details for our autonomous database. Again, we're met with that high level overview of the performance as well as the monitoring. So if we do have any downtime, we'd quickly be able to realize that here when that occurred, a quick view of our average active sessions. And then we can launch through any of our performance investigation, any of our management tools, or any of our administration within OCI can all quickly and easily be done here. So going into the Performance Hub, really kind of the bread and butter of the database administrator's toolkits. I feel you can get an idea of how your SQL statements are performing. So we're looking kind of at an order application here, doing a lot of inserts, actually causing a lot of issues within our buffer cache. If we wanted to, we can select a single statement here, get more details and drill down if we wanted to. We can create a SQL tuning set or tune the SQL with SQL Tuning Advisor right here from this operation, and then kind of dig into those details, get the recommendations on performance improvements, etc. And so then for the Ops Insights,
Maybe while you're going through the demo, if you have any questions, please ask them in the Q&A so we can address those before the call ends.
yeah. And so then pulling up here right quick is the capacity planning for our databases. So we do have 57 different databases located here. And we can also view a quick high-level view of CPU, storage, memory, I/O with the trends on the utilization. You can get your CPU insights here. So basically looking at a specific resource, how many of our DBA or how many of our databases are falling with the usage of greater than 75%, which ones are lower than 25%. And then according to forecasting of the next 30 days, how many do we expect to actually grow over that 75%? So we're going to go from 5 to 13. So another 8 databases are actually going to be forecasting higher usage during this time period. And then on the flip side, it doesn't look like any databases are going to be lowering. And so you can quickly find the top consumers of your usage here, or you can drill down utilizing this high usage link. So you can find which databases are utilizing more, and then you can see the trend forecasting here. We also have the seasonality awareness, so you can get an idea based on that longer period of time of how the seasonality is going to be factored into the growth of the database resource utilization. All right, so I know we only have 3 minutes left. Let me see. Were there any
You
questions?
want to go to the resource slide? Do we know
Yes.
where to follow up?
Yeah, so here are the resources. If you want any more information on the database management service or Ops Insights, you can quickly find that here. We have a whole lot of links
There
either to,
is a question. Sorry to
oh,
interrupt. I just want to make sure we can address it. How could you please share information how to enable the O&M for DB Autonomous?
okay. So if you go to your autonomous database resource page within the DBAS console, we should have an associated services link there within the additional details for that resource. And it'll say database management there. You can enable it from that console and kind of go through that workflow as well. Ops Insight should also be located there.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Again, thank you, Derek, for this great content. I will conclude this call. Thank you.